Out of all the IPs that have dropped the ball lately, perhaps none have been quite so disastrous as The Witcher. Once the darling on Netflix that could do no wrong, showrunner Lauren Hisrich has slowly dismantled the legacy of Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski, distorting and changing what made the Witcher series so beloved to begin with. In fact, the more recent seasons feel like something you'd find on the CW network. Along with ignoring the source marshal and kicking lead actor Henry Cavill out the door for being problematic on set for pointing out what happens in the books, The Witcher is not on a particularly stable footing with fans the world over. This is especially prevalent with the bad press surrounding Season 4 of the show. Liam Hemsworth is pinned to take on the unenviable task of filling the massive shoes left behind by Cavill, and thus Netflix seemed to have instead turned to its animation department to try and drum up some excitement for this flailing franchise. On paper, Sirens of the Deep should be a smash hit. Bringing back the iconic voice of Doug Cockle to play Geralt, who also voiced him in the games, is a massive coup. Furthermore, the story adapted, A Little Sacrifice, is rife with intrigue, deep characterization, and interesting developments that explore Geralt's psyche in a lot more detail. It's all very solid foundation for the team to work with, but of course, it's all completely squandered by misinterpretation of the source material, some baffling creative decisions, and a completely reworked ending from the original, for better or for worse. The story takes place between episodes 5 and 6 of The Witcher Season 1. As a result, this isn't really a movie designed for newcomers, nor is it really that endearing for die-hard fans of the franchise that were turned off by any of Netflix's changes over the seasons. It's such a bizarre creative choice, where perhaps an extra 10 to 15 minutes at the start of this movie could have helped broaden out the number of watchers. This could have helped explain The Witcher's basic lore, who Jaskier is, what the world is like, and who Yennefer actually is. Those who are Witcher fans will know, of course, but complete newcomers are likely to be out of their depth here. However, the story does do a reasonably good job of acting as a standalone adventure, even with these narrative woes. Here, the story sees Geralt and Jaskier out traveling together needing coin to get by. As fate would have it, war is on the horizon and it falls to our good Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, to try and figure things out. There are big hostilities between the land and the sea, with the catalyst here being a bunch of missing pearl divers. This conflict occurs within Bremervoord, who are at loggerheads with the Merman kingdom of Ys. Complicating matters further, the king's son Agalav is actually madly in love with the mermaid princess Esechines, whose romantic melodrama is the prelude to what could be utter destruction. That is, unless our Witcher can intervene and figure things out. It's a basic backdrop and it works reasonably well to introduce a new character to the lore, Essie. This bard is equal footing with Jaskier and the two have good banter together. Essie does take the lead a lot of the time with Geralt taking the back seat, with a couple of cheeky digs thrown in for good measure. There's a particularly amusing translation scene in the book which is changed and watered down to let Essie take the lead, but it lacks any humor, imagination, or spark that the original version had. The story itself also sticks pretty closely to The Little Mermaid in terms of developments between the humans and mermaids, right down to a climactic fight on a barge with a huge, giant kraken, and a musical number under the sea. The action itself is another point of contention here. Instead of gritty, grounded fighting, Geralt winds up flipping about constantly like he's Simone Biles in the Olympics. The opening fight is hilariously over the top, with Geralt flipping relentlessly before slicing once or twice with his sword. This continues throughout the story, with Geralt eventually flipping and running up the aforementioned kraken to take it out. The thing is, this story is not designed to show Geralt as this unstoppable superhero, and given it takes place between two grounded episodes in the live-action Witcher series, it feels even more out of place, given the grounded fighting in that season. But even without prior knowledge of the book or the series, Sirens of the Deep just isn't a particularly great movie. Its pacing is wildly inconsistent, and the story haphazardly throws components from Aquaman and Little Mermaid with the Witcher lore to try and create a more action-packed adventure than the thought-provoking original. It's hard to know who this movie is for, but in its effort to appeal to everybody, it's likely going to appeal to nobody. This is another unfortunate misfire.